If potentially accidentally buying the wrong kit isn't confusing enough, it gets worse if you look further into the lores. You'd find classics like the Zagok and the Zok, or lesser known variants like the Zgok and Zogok. And then you have, this. What is going on, guys? MJ2005 Gundam here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the high-grade Zagok Seed Freedom version from Gundam Seed Freedom. A set of camouflage armor to hide the Infinite Justice Gundam's affiliation with Orb, it intervened in the Foundation conflict to save Kira from many sticky situations. Coming with 11 runners and a non-existent sticker sheet, Seed Freedom's interpretation of the Zagok is a more involved take on the classic design, and because its design roots are from the classic era, the build will naturally take a more unique approach as it is, considering its body shape and the bellows-like joints. Then, there are the dummy Infinite Justice Type 2 parts, which is a very interesting approach to referencing the movie, while also providing the kit's functionality. The construction itself is pretty simple, but there are a few parts that require a bit more squeezing than usual. The darker reds will lead to nasty nut marks, especially for a few particularly troublesome gates, and the individual segments for the bellows is unavoidably tedious. But none of them really hurts how enjoyable the build is as a whole. However, the one thing I didn't mention is the Volantis backpack, as it is 100% identical to the one from the high-grade Infinite Justice Gundam Type 2, despite all the parts that aren't light grey being newly molded onto the Zagok runners, which resulted in the dark greys being different and requiring painting for color correction, but that's besides the point. I will highly recommend checking that video out first for the details of the backpack. Digression aside, I think everybody should be able to handle the build should you not mind a bit of tedium. Right out of the gate, it's quite clear that Bandai has put a lot of effort into the high-grade Zagok Seed Freedom version. The proportions are goofy but on point. The exterior also has a healthy amount of surface panel lining, but not too much to deviate far from the simpler design language. But most impressively of all, this kit has no stickers, at least from what you can see. This is thanks to this reinterpretation being faithful to the original Zagok by not needlessly adding trims and extra details, and the kit's relatively intricate part separation, especially notable for the slightly UV reactive mono eye, grey head details, and the grey poking out from around the claws. Granted, there are a few small blemishes to the looks. Firstly, I think the Volantis looks tacked on, but it's probably better than the dead giveaway that is the naked backplate, and if your cleanup work isn't on point, the occasional nubs will be a bit of a visual pest. And it isn't immune to needing paint either, as depending on the source you look at, the dark red is either spot on, or needs a touch of other paints for accuracy. Russet according to the line art, burgundy according to the CG model. However, it is undeniable that the white on the chest, gauntlets, and knees need to be more bluish compared to the claws and horn, while the pink itself is too pink when it should have been just Char's pink. Moreover, all of the thrusters need pink trims, the undercarriage needs to be in a dark red, if you want to base yours on the line art instead of the CG model, and if you really care, the exposed Gundam feet will need some silver for the supposed joints. Speaking of which, parts resembling the Infinite Justice Type 2's legs are used for the shin's internal structure, and taking off all the upper body armor will reveal a dummy of the Infinite Justice Type 2, which is where the only sticker of the kit is located. Granted, it's a crude replica with tons of hollow bits and missing paint details, but the app functionality has been fully replicated to facilitate articulation of the Zagok. Conversely, you can also stuff the proper torso and head from the Infinite Justice Type 2 into it, like a purple man in a golden bunny costume, to achieve the same effect, and everyone will be none the wiser. Tangent aside, the Matryoshka doll that is the high-grade Zagok Seed Freedom version is impressive as it is altogether, and would only require minimal painting efforts should the dummy and color accuracy not be a concern for you. To not repeat myself, the Volantis will be excluded from this section. From there, the head has a movable horn, while the cap can be removed to slide the mono eye along its track to change its line of sight. The arms can swivel forwards and back, as well as rotate, and raise up perpendicularly. There's a bicep swivel, while the bellows can flex with 2 internal bends, and the elbow can bend on the third. The claws can also rotate and open up. The dummy torso provides some great crunches towards all directions, and while the proper torso has slightly worse articulation, its performance isn't far behind. The waist can also rotate side to side, unless you want to wear out the angles of the app block to force it all the way. The front skirt module can be tucked forward for the skirts to move up, the side skirts are on a backwards swinging ball joint, and the hips are ball jointed in the middle to adjust the legs, for clearance to pull off the kicks towards all directions. There's a thigh and knee swivel, a joint each for the bellow and knee, and an extendable, pegged ball-jointed foot. Finally, the central thruster can move slightly. Knowing how inefficient some of the aquatic Zeon kits dealt with their fair share of chunky and bellow-shaped designs, the articulation of this Zagok is frankly more flexible than I've bargained for. However, it's the execution that raises my eyebrows. Yes, the kit is solid as a whole, but the joints in the bellows are a simple peg and hole attachment with nothing to hold the connection in, so there is a possibility that the joints will dislocate during the posing process, with no efficient way to fix it outside of a complete disassembly. Besides, with the legs possessing 2 swivels and the bellows joints obscured, there's also the risk of bending them the wrong way due to not knowing which way the internal joint is facing. In terms of accessories, those start off with the 2 pairs of anti-armor slashers, normal and heated. They simply swap onto the forearms for use for either slashing or firing the heavy ion cannons in their palms. And while the normal ones look fine, the heated ones are very vibrant thanks to the use of the sparkly and UV reactive clear orange pieces. For additional melee options, 4 effect parts have been recreated for the Volantis' beam risers in slasher mode, with their only difference being their vibrancy compared to those of the Infinite Justice Type 2 thanks to their shade and UV reactivity. Finally, an alternate cap piece is included to recreate the scene where the Zagok undergoes acupuncture, revealing the true identity of the Skinwalker. It's quite nice of them to recreate this part for just one particular scene, but you have to paint the missiles, track behind the horn, and the hex comb internal detail in grey, and highlights the cracks in the armor for full effect. On the grounds of ripping off every popular Zeon unit in the Cosmic Era being necessary, the Zagok is naturally on the waiting list for one of the resident Shark clones, but leaving that aside, the high-grade Zagok from Seed Freedom is a good kit, with one thing holding it back. For starters, it looks great despite the color inaccuracies and source inconsistencies, possessing more accessories than I've expected knowing Bandai's history with heated weapons, and even managed to incorporate parts of the movie spoiler into the kit to varying degrees. It's not the most original idea ever, but still fun to realize since not a lot of 1/144th scale gunpla pull off the Matryoshka doll gimmick in parts despite their sources, if at all. Sadly, the impressive articulation is done in by the effective but flawed execution on the bellows-like joints because they can be easily mishandled and subsequently dislodged. And I personally think that perhaps internal ball joints should have been used instead of internal bends. Regardless, be it for the memes or for the love of the mobile suit or character, the high-graded Zagok Seed Freedom version is not only a recommendable kit to everyone, but also a good conceptual basis for future kits of similar designs. And that's all for me. Thank you for watching, drop a like and comment if you did enjoy the video, subscribe for more content like this, and feel free to follow me on social media with the links down below. That said, take it easy, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out guys, bye bye.